Hey guys, it's Rachel. It is Thankful Thursday, and I'm here this week. I'm doing my bit for comic relief. Um, I don't know whether you do know, but I quite often get a t-shirt, so there we go. It's Thankful Thursday, and I know we had a bit of a distraction last week because we took a week of videos for International Women's Day, and we made it a kind of week-long thing. My laptop's been down, so in terms of my blog and stuff, I've not really been able to do so much. My laptop is still down. It's actually gone away to the repair people. It's going to be like 2 weeks. So I'm actually using my mum's, and I'm using the webcam that is on her computer. I'm hoping that the quality of it turns out. So this week is the last week of the rota that we were doing. Now I know that we did a 6-week rota, and it was the health behaviour model for change. We did week 1 pre-contemplation, week 2 contemplation, week 3 active change, week 4 maintenance, week 5 relapse, and then we had last week out, and this week is week 6. Now what's being asked here is for us to review the model, and I guess that in a therapeutic sense, I'm not saying that people only have 6 sessions of therapy, but sometimes therapists do work that way within CBT and such. Obviously you can't deal with each of those things in 1 week, but there quite often is a sort of process, and after a number of weeks there is a reflection, a number of months work. So this week I'm going to review the model for you. I'm going to reiterate how recovery is a process, highlight that relapses are a normal part of the healing process, and that even if we fall down, that we can pick ourselves up without sort of condemning ourselves and hammering down on ourselves that we should be better. The slips, as I've said, are all part of the process. I want to discuss kind of how, keeping going is the most important part, and learning from those mistakes that we make, and then kind of looking at success in recovery. I maybe want to discuss a bit about what brought success for me, when my behaviours subsided, what my future looked like without an eating disorder, and how my overall health improved. So yeah, I mean, you hear it here a lot. I know you do, that recovery is this process, and it is ongoing. That can sometimes seem daunting and incredibly overwhelming. It can be very difficult to think that we're going to be at this forever, but I think there is a degree of, if we're going to be realistic, that this is a lifelong journey. However, where I do default on that a little bit is that I do believe that a recovered state is possible. I do consider myself 100% recovered from my eating disorder, not just behavioural with regards to my behaviour, but also with regards to the thoughts not being there, healthy body image, and all of that type of thing. So recovery is ongoing, and I can't tell you how long it's going to take each person, but what I will say is that you do need to allow yourself to be in a place whereby, yes, there may be some denial, but it's in a place that you're realising things need to change. From that point you can start to take active change. But tackling the behaviours and doing something about your condition is going to be part of dealing with the behaviours. That's the active change for the most part. The maintenance stage is maintaining a healthy meal plan, working on challenging different foods continuously, putting yourself in challenging situations. I gave an example the other day to my girlfriend, and I just kind of said, I went travelling in the summer of 2005, so that was roughly 18 months after I started my real recovery. And it was challenging in a million different ways, okay? It was literally like putting me in at the deep end and saying swim. What I will say is that a lot of treatment places do try to do that, throw you in at the deep end and hope you make it, really. But if you don't have any skills, then it's highly unlikely you're going to make it. At least at that point I had skills, but what it did challenge me was not only my food, because I had to eat food from a different country, I had to eat in different situations, I had to eat foods that I'd never eaten before, I had to deal with cleanliness issues because I was staying in backpacker places, I had to deal with being with people constantly being in my space, because again I was staying in shared dorms. There were so many things I had to challenge. The fact that I had quite a strict routine, the number of hours sleep that I always felt I had to get, just so many different things. So that actually helped with regards to my relapse, because it challenged me in so many different ways that I learned a million more different skills. So having difficulties, challenging yourselves in different ways, falling down a few times, are all the ways that we learn. And the only way we're going to learn new skills is by not using the behaviours that we've used for so long. And it is only through the absence of those behaviours that we learn new ways of being, learn new ways of coping. And what quite often happens with your recovery and falling down is that you pick up and learn from those things. And what then ultimately happens when because I think even in recovery, say you use a distraction after you've had dinner, because ordinarily you'd use behaviour over exercise, purging, whatever, that distraction comes in. What ultimately happens towards the end of your recovery and stability stage is that you don't have to actually distract. So you can actually have your dinner and not have an activity to distract you after. You can actually just be there, be with those very difficult feelings. And that's where the guilt and anxiety issues come in that if you can't always sit with those feelings and you do use a behaviour, that you need to try and address what it is about those feelings that feel so difficult. Now that feeling, that emotion is going to be unique to each of us. How we interpret what's gone on, how we process what has gone on is unique to us all. One person's anxiety might be about something completely different to another person's anxiety. And so that's the process of acceptance really, and about success in recovery is a huge amount of acceptance. It's an acceptance that you've got this illness, it's an acceptance that things are actually actively going to have to change for it to get better. And it's acceptance that it's not going to be perfect and that we are going to fall down on our arse. For some people's falls a literal near slip, a slip, a moment in time, and then that's it. Other people's last days, other people's last weeks. In my case, when I had a big relapse, it lasted for quite a long time, a number of months. However, in my recovery also, I've had moments where I've struggled, had a bit of a meltdown, picked myself up the next day. All the while, what my advice to you would be is to remain mindful of what it is that perhaps caused it. Jot it down, even if you just say, I've done this and this and this and that, and there's no pattern, but maybe the next time, when you struggle with difficult feelings, if something triggered it, is there a reason was there something that happened before you had your dinner that made you particularly emotional after you had your dinner? Although you feel like it's because you've eaten, did something before that maybe make you vulnerable to the fact that eating was incredibly challenging because you were still feeling quite distressed? And these aren't necessarily conscious things, but they're things that can maybe help us link to what is truly behind the eating disorder, because behaviours they are behaviours, and yes, they are pre-programmed in some cases, they are very repetitive in a lot of cases, they're an instinct, they are a snap impulse. And what I try and talk to my girlfriend about is about an intervention. So something upsets you, without even thought, you use a behaviour. So my thoughts on that, I'd say, right, you've had this. What is it? Is there an image you can look at? Is there, let's say you've been on the phone, okay, and you've had a distressing phone call, and you put the phone down because somebody's made you really angry, and ordinarily you'd go and self-harm, but then the picture on your phone is of your goddaughter or something that makes you happy. Just something that then you look at and shifts your mind away from what it is that distressed you. Now, those distressing situations do need looking at. However, through this process of learning, of contemplation, active change, maintenance, the process of recovery, we need to be looking at what's behind it. But sometimes, as soon as it's happened, isn't the best time to look at it. So you distract yourself with something, and then when you feel calmer, you can maybe have a conversation about what it was that was distressing. that to me is success in recovery. Success in recovery isn't just about behavioural change, it's about shifting and moving and peeling back the layers so that what is below it can be seen. And that is how you begin to move on. So let's say for me, I had the focus on dealing with my behaviours, stabilising my mood, okay? When that happened, I challenged myself in different ways, socially, doing travelling, doing different activities, starting dance classes, something I'd always wanted to do but felt too anxious to go on my own, you know, street dance classes, doing that type of thing, running this self-help group that I want to do, actually making steps that challenge me and are going to open me up in different ways. And all of these things allow you to move on and allow you to live, because you're not using behaviours, you're not occupying your mind, your energy, physically, emotionally, whatever, with behaviours. You're actually starting to live. And that doesn't mean that it isn't difficult. It doesn't mean that just because you're not using behaviours doesn't mean the thoughts are in your head. The longer you don't use behaviours, yes, those thoughts may be very, very real for a long time. But what it allows you to then do is deal with those thoughts. So if you've got the thought, I want to hurt myself, if you just hurt yourself, it's over. If you step back and say, right, I've not used this behaviour, I've been able to complete my meal plan today, but God, I feel like shit, is to yes, it might be because you've eaten food, but what is it about the food? What does that symbolise? Does it symbolise that you're too much, that you've taken too much in, that you're greedy? What does that represent? What does being greedy mean? What does and just those feelings are very, very difficult, but you need to look at them. And that doesn't mean that every single day you have to address how you're feeling. What it does mean is there has to be some sort of recognition. Some days you don't want to think about it, you don't talk about your meal plan, you just distract yourself, you're gonna go and like do something that just completely takes your mind away from it, and that's fine too. But what I find most helpful about success in recovery and about being able to remain in recovery is having a place to take that stuff. So if it can't be therapy all the time, writing, drawing, doing something that expresses it in a different way. By doing these activities, by integrating yourself into different things, not only are you less likely to use behaviours, you're less likely to relapse, because you found other things in your life that are helping you manage and helping you cope. And all of this builds you a future without the eating disorder. And the more things you have in your life which are not eating disorders, means that the less likelihood there is that you will want your eating disorder back. Not that I'm saying anybody particularly wants it, but you will feel the need for it. What I do want to say here, that yes, I've discussed a lot of the positives with recovery, is that there will be a quietness. When you don't use behaviours and you're not constantly wrapped up in drama, there is this weird, eerie silence, quietness, and you don't quite know what to do with it. And I remember it very distinctly. What am I going to do with myself? And what I did do is go back to university, and I'm not saying you have to take a step like that, but in that silence, as frightening as that feels, start to build up things that feel manageable, okay? And in moving on from your eating disorder, in building a future without your eating disorder, you're building your health. The healthier that you are physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, the less likelihood there is that you're going to relapse and get ill again. So the stronger you make yourself, in all senses of the word, the less likelihood it is that you're going to recover. And that is ultimately what the health recovery model is about, isn't it? It's about taking those steps to change and move forward. And hopefully, my hope for you after you've kind of gone through all of that is that you can be where I am, that you can actually be recovered. Now, that isn't to say I don't still have mental health problems that I battle with, but even with those at the moment, they're in remission and I'm well, and that is what you can all too attain. So I'm going to leave that here now, guys, and get this uploaded. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'm not quite sure what our series of videos is going to be next week, but let's hope we come up with something great. Alright guys, love you loads, bye.